Much, not much.
Absolutely.
Uh,
So, good evening, everyone. We have listeners from different parts of the country, and I must inform with great pleasure that when we shared the link, within less than 12 hours, the registration slots filled out. And I think that attests, even during this hour of crisis, that we in Bengal, we teachers across the world maybe are going through, that there are people out there who love literature, who love Shakespeare. And obviously, I have to add that probably we have a number of students from Allahabad. So thank you so much for joining us. And now I take great pleasure to introduce our honorable resource person. We have with us Professor Susheel Kumar Sharma. Thank you again for joining us, sir. He is presently the departmental head of English and Modern European Languages, University of Allahabad, Prayagraj. Professor, if I go on reading sir's CV for you, it will take a long time, but I will just try to highlight a few important things. Sir holds a doctoral research on the theme of temptation in Milton. He also holds a diploma in creative writing in English. And I should add that apart from being an inspiring veteran academician, he is also one of the most significant creative writers of our country today. I have had the pleasure of reading his poems, and they are wonderful to say the least. Professor Sharma has published 5 books, 60 research papers, 15 interviews, and 30 book reviews. He is also on the editorial and reviewers panel of some journals. You can access his works on Academia Edu profile of Professor Sharma. He has completed 3 research projects and has successfully guided multiple doctoral research candidates. He has also represented our country abroad. His poems has been published in Canada, France, Ireland, Scotland, the UK, and the USA. And he was conferred upon the AESI Lifetime Achievement Award 2020 of the Association for English Studies of India in the 64th All India English Teachers Conference held at Magath University in 2020. His current interests include cultural studies, English language teaching, comparative literature, English studies in India, and contemporary literary theory. We welcome you again, sir. We thank you heartily for giving us some time from your busy schedule. And today being, although debated, the evening for us in UK, it's still the afternoon. The birth date of Shakespeare, as I said, although it's debated, we are eagerly waiting to hear from you. So without further ado, I hand over the session to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Debadatta. I also thank you, your colleague who is handling this session technically, and also the principal, Dr. Anuradha Chakrabarti, who has given me an opportunity to talk to you all. Shakespeare was introduced in India after Macaulay's introduction. And Macaulay, in his minute, makes it very clear that the company was not going to spend the money on the promotion of Indian literature. By Indian literature was meant Sanskrit literature and Arabic literature at that point of time. And those who are familiar with the minute, they know how contemptuous he was towards Indian literature. And he was praising Shakespeare gloriously. Not only Shakespeare, but also others, although he did not mention the name of Shakespeare there. But when he said that entire uh, Arabic and Sanskrit literature put together is not even one shelf worth of British literature, and he said that this literature and this language, by which he meant English, even the Tatars and the Russians had been civilized. So he tried to justify the introduction of English studies in India. Now, what happened? I would like to show a particular piece.
Sure, sir. I'll confirm once it is shown on the screen. Yes, sir, we can see.
This is volume one of Lord Macaulay's letters and essays, and this has been edited by none else than his own relative in every office, Trevelyan. What was the impact of this English education? Here is an extract from page 409. At one of the colleges at Calcutta, the distribution of prizes was accompanied by some historic performances on the part of the pupils. Shakespeare, many of the teachers, particularly in Bengal, they wanted to play stage plays by Shakespeare on the stage, and many of the children were participating. Now, what does Macaulay say? I have no partiality for such ceremonies. I think it is very questionable thing whether even at home public spouting and acting ought to form part of the system of a place of education. But in this country, such exhibitions are peculiarly out of place. I can conceive nothing more grotesque than the scene from The Merchant of Venice, with Portia represented by a little black boy. Then, though the subjects of recitation were ill chosen, we are attempting to introduce a great nation to a knowledge of the richest and noblest literature in the world. The Society of Calcutta assembled to see what progress we are making, and we produce as a sample a boy who repeats some blackguard doggerel of George Coleman's about a fat gentleman who was put to bed over an oven, and about a man midwife who was called out to his bed by a drunken man at night. Our disciple tries to hiccup and tumbles and staggers about in imitation of the tipsy English sailors whom he has seen at the punch houses. Really, if we can find nothing better worth reciting than this trash, we had better give up English instruction altogether. Again, I quote, as to the list of prize books, I am not much better satisfied. It is absolutely unintelligible to me why Pope's works and my old friend Moore's Lalaro should be selected from the whole mass of English poetry to be the prize books. I will engage to frame Carante Calmeo a better list. Bacon's essays, Hume's England, Gibbon's Rome, Robertson's Charles V, Robertson's Scotland, Robertson's America, Swift's Gulliver, Robinson Crusoe, Shakespeare's works, Paradise Lost, Milton's smaller poems, Arabian Nights, Park's Travels, Anson's Voyage, The Vicar of Wakefield, Johnson's Lives, Gil Blas, Voltaire's Charles XII, Sadei's Nelson, Middleton's Life of Cicero. This may serve as a specimen. These are the books which will amuse and interest those who obtain them. Give a boy Abercrombie on the intellectual powers, Dick's moral improvement, Tuck's intellectual philosophy, Chalmers' poetical economy. In passing, I may be allowed to ask what that means is quite absurd. I would not give orders at random for books about which we know nothing. We are under no necessity of ordering at haphazard. We know Robinson Crusoe and Gulliver and Arabian Nights and Anson Voyage and many other delightful works which interest even the very young and which do not lose their interest to the end of our lives. Why should we order blindfold such books as Markham's New Children's Friend and Juvenile Scrapbook and the Child's Own Book, Nigan's Earth, Buddy's Sea, and somebody else's Fire and Air? Books which I will be bound for it. None of us ever open, right? The list of the parts needs to be thoroughly recast. I stop here, the passage is quite long. Now, what do we learn from this? What do we learn from this? Macaulay is satisfied the way English studies were being done in Calcutta at that time. From the point of view of the subject matter, from the point of view of teaching methodology, from the point of view of the books being awarded, and even the type of products that were there, he was unsatisfied with everything. He has positively mentioned Shakespeare, but he has decried the presentation of Portia by an Indian. From where will you bring a white man here or white girl here to make a Portia? Shakespeare has been very popular in India, and I think if one lifetime is there uh, and a person is there who simply tries to collect and read whatever has been written about Shakespeare in India, perhaps that lifetime will be a lesser period. But again, I'll say that a person might be disappointed. Why? Because half of the things that have been said by the Indians, they are merely the repetitions of whatever has already been said by the British scholars or by the American scholars. So, wherein lies our originality in our response to Shakespeare? There was a time when we simply used to be guided by whatever was being said by the British people, right? One of the ways to discuss how Shakespeare has been dealt with by Indians is to see to study various articles that have been published by Indian scholars in Indian journals. And let us see how many of those responses are really Indian. Hmm? Uh, there was a journal, small journal called Meerut Journal of Comparative Literature and Language that was published naturally because, as the title indicates, it is a journal of comparative literature. So some sort of new things are there in this journal. So I'll just go by the titles of the articles. One of the articles is Keats is with Shakespeare. This is done by H.C. Gupta, where the relationship between Keats and Shakespeare and how Keats used to quote Shakespeare, particularly in his letters. That thing has been discussed. But Keats's interest in Shakespeare is quite well known. So I very much doubt if there is anything original in this letter, except that in Indian academia, Keats's letters are not very popular, and generally Keats's poetry is taught, and people are unfamiliar with Keats's critical opinion. In the name of romantic criticism in India, once again, nobody teaches Keats. Generally, only Wordsworth and Coleridge are taught as the representatives of romantic criticism. In another issue of this very journal, there is a comparative study made between Shakespeare's Hamlet and Conrad's Victory, a study in detachment and involvement. Now, both these ideas, detachment and involvement, hmm, both these ideas, they have been taken from Bhagavad Gita, Indian ideas. So there is a possibility that in this some Indianism is there, or some Indian thinking is there, or some thing has been done of the sort. Now there is another article, Shakespearean patterns in the plays of T.S. Eliot. This has been done by Professor K. Chalappan of Madurai University. So where he is trying to analyze the structures of various kind structure, Shakespearean structures in T.S. Eliot's plays. Hmm? There is another issue uh, in which there is another article by Ghanshyam Sharma. The theme of self-transcendence in Marlowe, Shakespeare, and Eugene O'Neill. Three different authors have been taken, two Elizabethan authors, one American author, two 16th century author, one 20th century author, and a comparative study has been made. Self-transcendence. There are two very important articles in two issues of the journal. One is Pre-Independent Indian Response to Shakespeare by Professor T.R. Sharma, and there is another article, Post-Independent Indian Response to Shakespeare. Now, what does Professor T.R. Sharma do? He makes a historical study of whatever types of books were there and whatever types of articles were there. Mainly, these were the books that were published in the pre-independent India. This response to Shakespeare by various scholars, they need not be the professors of English at that point of time. They could be translators. They could be the people who staged Shakespeare on stage Shakespeare for various kinds of audiences. For example, there is a translation of Merchant of Venice by Bhartendu Harishchandra under the title Durlabh Bandhu. Now, Durlabh Bandhu has got nothing to do with the Merchant of Venice, but the Bandhu generally may be translated as brothers. But in Indian connotation, this Bandhu need not be a blood relative. Bandhu could be anyone. For example, in Bengali, you call Dada. Everybody is an elder brother. So this is how we Indians identify and each other. And this is how the Indian sensibility goes. So Durlabh Bandhu, because the relationship between Anthony and his friend Bassanio is so that one is ready to sacrifice his entire life for another person. Even the names of the characters there have been changed, right? So that type of translation work had been going on across India, and there was another translation that was published in 1853, and the translator, it was translated as Bhanumati Chittavilas. right? Bhanumati Chittavilas. Now, what is this Bhanumati Chittavilas? Bhanumati here represents Portia. So just see how this response to Merchant of Venice is entirely different in two different cases by two different translators. For one, Portia is important, and for another person, Antony and Bassanio, they are important. So this also highlights the sensibility of different kinds of people. Now, let me talk about this play in a small detail. I'm sure most of the people who are present here, they are familiar with the play, and they at some stage of their life either have been taught this or they have taught this play. Hmm? Now, how do we describe Portia? Right? In several interviews, I've asked another question: the Merchant of Venice. So, who is the merchant there? Right? So, whose title? Huh? What does Shakespeare want the title of the book to be? Is it Bassanio or is it Antonio? Right? The title is not the Merchants of Venice, and of course, Bassanio is not the merchant. And I'm sorry to say that none of the candidates has been able to give a satisfactory answer. Hmm? So this is our response to Shakespeare in the current times. As regards Portia, what is our stand in the class? She is a wonderful girl. She is a heroine, right? Bassanio, a wonderful man, a dandy who does not have any money. Without using our minds, we tend to glorify all these characters, right? What is the business of Bassanio? Bassanio's business is to squander money. Would you like to marry any of your sisters or any of your daughters to such a person who simply squanders money? The money that has not been earned by him, money that has been borrowed from his friends. And what about this boy? Bassanio. What does he, why does he want to marry Portia? He wants to marry Portia because he has come to know that Portia's father has left a great amount of money. So, without doing anything, he will be able to have that sort of bounty. So, this type of boy you are glorifying in the classroom. So, what will be the impact on the mind, young minds? And then we say Portia is a very clever girl. What type of uh, wisdom is that? That she wants to marry a nikhattu. In Hindi, there is a word nikhattu, who does not do anything, a dandy, right? So this is our response to Shakespeare. Why? Because people there, they have tried to glorify Portia and Bassanio. We so far have not been able to uh, stand on our own and try to judge all these characters in our own way. After all, when Sita or Ram wanted to marry, was it that money or was it the size of the kingdom that was there in the mind of these people? In every marriage, in entire India, what type of songs are sung by the folk people? They celebrate the song, they celebrate the marriage of Ram and Sita. They celebrate the marriage of Shiva and Parvati. They celebrate the songs. They celebrate even these all these Panchkanyas, Savitris. So does anybody, any of these persons match in any way to Portia. And how many of our teachers tell in the classrooms that this innocent looking play of Shakespeare has been banned in several states of America? Why? Because we in India unfortunately tell that all religions tell good things and all religions tell the same thing. Why has this play been banned in America in that case? The play has been banned because of the contempt that has been shown toward the Jews in the play. So, our English classrooms, are we not trying to support a particular religion? That means that English teachers in our classrooms, are we trying to justify Christianity in our classrooms? That is another point of view that we have to look into while we teach such plays, right? So, Merchant of Venice had been very popular in India, and it had been translated in different ways. Then we have got critics like Muktaram Vidya Vagish, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, Nani Lal Bandyopadhyay, L. Sitaram, R. Supine, R. V. Subbarao, Anand Krishnaswamy, Muhammad Iqbal, Rabindranath Tagore, P. C. Ray, Manmohan Ghosh, Arvindo Ghosh, Justice Ranade, and many more. Many of these names are from Bengal. Some are from South India. Some from Bombay region. Hardly anyone from North India. Why so? Because English studies, they started from Calcutta first. The first three universities, Calcutta, Chennai, Mumbai, they were started by the Britishers, and the fourth oldest university was Allahabad and then Lahore. So Lahore and Allahabad, Punjab University, they were started simultaneously, and we perhaps did not take all these things very seriously in North India. But most of our teachers, they complain these days that our students do not read the textbooks. Many of the teachers complain that in the semester system, where is the time to teach a text? At Allahabad University, when I joined in 2001, one of my former heads, whom I used to visit very reverentially every evening, he used to caution me against teaching the text. He said at Allahabad University, we don't teach the text. We have to deliver lectures. Right? But the most popular teachers in 2001 were those teachers who used to teach the text in the classroom. And those teachers particularly who used to translate those texts into Hindi. So Hindi medium, those teachers who used to teach in Hindi, they were very popular. Right? That is my personal experience. So this change. Now, was this change all of a sudden? As a matter of fact, this was not all of a sudden. If we come to study this from the point of view of the evolution of Shakespearean studies in India and all over the world, what was Shakespeare? What was English response to Shakespeare? During his lifetime, he could have been a popular writer. But was he really appreciated by the academicians? He was not appreciated at all. What is John Dryden's approach to Shakespeare? he is not able to take a very open stand in support of Shakespeare. The first support in English criticism comes in the form of Dr. Johnson in the neoclassical age, right? Where he tries to justify that Shakespeare's dramas are an improvement. But in the same age, you also have Alexander Pope. And what are Alexander Pope and Wanted doing? They are trying to rewrite Shakespeare, particularly King Lear. He says the end is needs to be changed. The end needs to be changed because there is no poetic justice in the play. In the Restoration period, Shakespeare is not being revived. His themes are being taken up, right? So, what has been the response to Shakespeare in England itself? And when we come to Shakespeare response, I told you about Macaulay. I began talking about Macaulay, right? As a matter of fact, English studies were started first in India, then they were started in England. Meaning thereby that Shakespeare was invented especially for India. In 19th century, what was Charles Lamb doing? Charles Lamb had prepared tales from Shakespeare, right? What is this tales from Shakespeare if not notes on Shakespeare? Today we say our students are simply reading the notes, reading the stories. They are not reading the plays. Many of our Indian scholars were trying to understand Shakespeare through Charles Lamb's tales from Shakespeare. And as a matter of fact, uh, this gentleman, Pandit, what is his name? Mukta Ram Vidya Vagish, right? He is giving simply the summaries from this book. And whatever the secondary opinions are there, those secondary opinions are being quoted. I'm quoting a few lines. A mere acquaintance with the stories which form the theme of these great poems fills the mind with highest delight and leading to an increasing of thinking power, it produces the unspeakable but very tangible result of creating a sense of duty, inspiration of virtuous deeds, inclination towards such qualities of character as humility, generosity, fortitude, and aversion to selfishness and other forms of immortal conduct. It should be immoral conduct, right? Now, what is the emphasis? The emphasis that try to read this lecture as didactic lecture. And what is new in it, right? So as tales are being told to young people, similarly this criticism from Pandit Mukta Ram Vidyanivas is there. So there is no insightful criticism, right? Then Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, he was all for English literature. As a matter of fact, all the this Datta family, Bankim Chandra family, all those who started going to these schools, as a matter of fact, many of them converted themselves to Christianity. So there is a connection between English literature and Christianity also. Many of them abandoned this country. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee started writing a realistic book, a fiction, which he later Rajmohan's wife, which he could not complete. He gave it up in between. And suddenly he realized that his imitative way is not going to do anything good for this country or for Bengal. And ultimately he comes out with a book called anyone? Anand Math, a revolutionary book, right? Anand Math. So Anand Math has got nothing to do with the English sensibility. And the theme for Anand Math has not been drawn from any of those Shakespearean plays or any of those books. It's a realistic novel about the Indian conditions, right? What is whatever is happening in Bengal today, right? All those places you would not like to mention, otherwise somebody will say that political references are being made. But political overtones are there in Shakespeare's plays, and political overtones are there in Anand. Hardly can there be a piece of literature where this sort of thing is not there. Political overtones are not there. So without a reference to politics, perhaps all this may not be possible, right? Uh, we have got Manmohan Ghosh. Hmm? He composes a poem on Shakespeare. Rest in peace in thy grave, O mighty Lord, immortal shalt thou remain through ages and ages. Now, is it not imitative verse where he is invoking Matthew Arnold and William Wordsworth simultaneously in praise of uh, Shakespeare? Then we have got another example. R.V. Subbarao. Hmm? He happens to be, he tries to criticize some of Shakespeare's plays, and particularly two tragedies, Hamlet and Othello. He tries to read India in both these plays, right? And he says that Hamlet basically uh, is a study of mind, but the mind is unfathomable. Unfathomable, as here we say that pragya is unfathomable. He does not say that Hamlet is confused, right? When you are not able to fathom your own thoughts, you say it is unfathomable. But I think the better way is the person is confused, whether to take this side or that side. And then he tries to see jealousy uh, in Othello, and he tries to study it in the way Mahabharata has been studied from Indian perspective, right? But he's not very clear in his opinions, right? Because he is not able to withstand, or he is not able to stand up against the opinion of the Britishers. And whatever he's trying to say is, as a matter of fact, trying to mix some Indian idea, and all those things are there, right? In 1916, when Shakespeare's birth, their centenary was being celebrated, there was one Sir Israel Golankes who prepared a volume entitled A Book of Homage. And in this Book of Homage, articles were there, poems were there, panegyrics were there, and they were written by eminent scholars like Ananda Kumara Swami, Muhammad Iqbal, Rabindranath Tagore, and many others. Right? It's a useful companion for Indian criticism of Shakespeare. But the Book of Homage has nothing original. And it's a commemorative volume where everybody is praising Shakespeare. So there is hardly any criticism, as we call it criticism. There is hardly any criticism over there. It is a book of appreciation. It's a book of intellectual fraternity where people are trying to say that Shakespeare was a great mind. So, as a matter of fact, they were simply trying to echo what Macaulay was trying to do. But they were trying to keep themselves in the company of the great bard. They were saying that they were perhaps as great as that. So they became ultimately the spokesperson of Macaulay. Uh, Muhammad Iqbal, what does he write? Under the flashing sunbeams of thy thought, nature herself has found herself revealed in perfect glory in thy golden song, the conscious mistress of her treasured wealth. The eager eyes in search of thy image found thee enshrined within a veil of light, like mighty monarch of night and day that bathed in glory. Seeing is not seen, hid from the world's eye, thou hast beheld the intricate workings of her most inmost soul. The jealous mistress of deep mysteries never again will suffer herself to bear a son like thee who look her by surprise, unveiled in starlight and mellow moon. Right? In this poem, what is Iqbal doing? Except glorifying, uh, uh, except glorifying Shakespeare and his concern with several of the emotions that find reflection in his tragedies, particularly. What does Rabindranath Tagore write? When by the far away sea your fiery disk appeared from behind the unseen, O poet, O sun, England's horizon felt you near her breast and took you to be her own. All idolatry, right? As I indicated earlier, this was published on a centenary, so nothing better perhaps could be expected in a volume of uh, homage. Now we have got another critics. Another critics like you have got Vijendra Seal and Jayagopal Banerjee. Once again, two Bengalis. Jayagopal Banerjee and Vijendra Seal. What are they trying to do? They are trying to study Shakespeare with reference to some Indian ideals and Indian pantheism. So at least some variety is there. And then in 1924, there is a person called C.J. Seshon. I would like to show his book to you. It's a small book. Can you see the book, please? No.
Sir, we can't see it at the moment, but I'm sure it will be visible in a moment. Yes, sir. We can see it now. We can see it.
This is a small book of only 48 pages. As a matter of fact, this was a lecture that he delivered in 1924 in the Shakespeare Association at King's College, London. Right? What is this gentleman talking about? Shakespeare in India, popular adaptations on the Bombay stage. C.J. Seshon, reader in English literature in the University of London, University College. In the preface, he refers to one Indian, right? C.R. Shah, whom he describes as assistant professor of English at Elphinstone College, University of Bombay, formerly my colleague, right? So it is he who is collecting documents and perhaps sending to him, right? When I tried to get some information about C.R. Shah, I was not able to get any information about it. So I do not know if he uh, uh, published something. This also indicates that Indians, as a matter of fact, were not publishing many things. Why were they not publishing many things? Hmm? This gentleman was collecting material and sending to England, right? But he himself is not publishing anything. Why so? That is another point to be pondered over. Hmm? Uh, I was once talking about uh, the University of Allahabad's contribution to English studies. Uh, Two professors who are praised very greatly uh, and with whom the department is identified. One happens to be Professor S.C. Dev and another happens to be Professor Dastur, P. Dastur. Both of them did not publish anything, right? There is a small pamphlet by Professor S.C. Dev about nature in romantic poetry or nature in English literature. A small pamphlet about 23, 24 pages. On the other hand, we have got a man called Firaq Gorakhpuri. He publishes a book, अंग्रेजी साहित्य का इतिहास. अब ये अंग्रेजी साहित्य का इतिहास उन्होंने अंग्रेजी में नहीं लिखा है. He has not written this in English. He has written this book in Hindi. So why this? Well, Firaq is another important person from the Department of English, Allahabad University, and he is more famous as a poet than perhaps as a scholar of English literature. But the teachers, those who have been his students here, they used to marvel at his memory and the innovative approach that he used to bring in the classroom. Although very few of them perhaps could talk about it, whether this was basically due to his wit or his scholarship, right? That they praise him. I do not know that because I tried, despite the fact that I tried my best to understand as to what this gentleman was trying to do, whether he was more popular as a teacher, whether he was more popular because of his wit, or whether he was more popular because of his scholarship. But his activities perhaps do not give any clue whether he was more interested into reading. Hmm? All these professors, particularly Professor S.C. Dev, why is he praised? He is not praised for his original thinking. He is not praised for his original opinions. He is praised because he knows English literature by heart and he knows English critics by heart. On the other hand, there is another gentleman called Amarnath Jha. Amarnath Jha is writing a book on Shakespearean comedy. And in this book, there is nothing else except compilation of different opinions about Shakespearean comedy from various critics. Something which perhaps B.R. Mullick was doing later for Eshand and Company. Right? Now, this type of books, what do they indicate? So why were Indians not writing something original, or they were too much colonized, or they were under too much of pressure, right? This is what we also have to see, and we have to see the journey of about 200 years of English studies in India through Shakespeare. How we have unburdened ourselves of the colonial hegemony, of the colonial hangover, and we are trying to study Shakespeare in our own terms. So, Shakespeare in India, right? This is the book, a small pamphlet, and this is available. Shakespeare in India. So, basically, this is Shakespeare in India on the stage. This is how Shakespeare was being adopted and adapted on the stage, as I referred to earlier, right? Just see the titles: Vasundhara, Bedari Talwar, right? Macbeth, Meenakshi. How the names of the characters are changing. So, in today's terms, these are the adaptations of Shakespeare for the Indian theatre. Uh, we can move on to another critic. Hmm? And this another critic happens to be R.K. Yagnik. And this critic happens to be, as a matter of fact, a better critic than this person who is simply trying to make a study uh, of the plays. Let me show this book also. Uh, I am unable to locate the book. It seems to have been lost somewhere. But this is a book by, this is a book from the western coast of India. The gentleman is teaching somewhere in Gujarat, right? And this happens to be his PhD thesis. It looks like that. If not, if this is not a PhD thesis, then also it's an important work where he's trying to analyze various types of uh, plays, Shakespearean plays. Hmm? Then there are two plays which are very important from Indian perspective, particularly from the theater perspective, The Merchant of Venice and A Midsummer Night's Dream. And in Midsummer Night's Dream, once again, different types of characters are there, and these characters are renamed. Then I move on to the year 1912, which which marks the fact that decline of Shakespearean adaptations takes place in Bombay. Hmm? One of the observations that has been made by one of the Bengali persons is that Shakespeare is more popular in Bombay than Tagore is in Calcutta. Now, if you compare 1912, why this Shakespeare is more popular in Bombay and Tagore is less popular in Calcutta? Even today, Bollywood is more important than Hollywood, right? India is represented by Bollywood. So naturally, that tradition of theater had been there. And these Portuguese people, Parsi people, they settled more in Bombay, and they were contributing to the theater more than the people were doing here. And naturally, the impact of West was more on Bombay than it was there on Calcutta. Even today, Bengalis are comparatively a conservative people. who are rooted and who are attached to their language and culture more than the people in Bombay. Bombay is cosmopolitan, Calcutta is not. Am I right, Devaditya? A UP wala is making that sort of comparison between two cities, two metropolitans, right?
It's a spot.
That's
It's
right,
a spot on observation, sir. I must add.
right? So this is because so we can't make a comparison that Shakespeare is more popular there, right? But things start changing in 1912, hmm? and and more plays come into existence because more Indians are writing for the stage. The fact of matter is that earlier, after after the advent of Muslims, there was a sort of uh, moratorium on dramatic activity, and this was confined only to the rural areas in the form of Nautanki. So this was not brought to the main centers because the authors were not perhaps available, right? All these issues, they have been discussed by Yagnik and also Session in their books. And Dr. Yagnik concludes that whatever course the stage takes in future, there is absolute certainty about one thing, that the Indian theaters will always maintain their reverence and affection for Shakespeare. Even the Bollywood continues to do that. Makbul and all those recreations in the film world, they are there, right? Will always be there and will yield to none in their love of their dramatists they consider as belonging to all nations. Thus, although the contact between East and the West in the field of theatre has already borne remarkable fruit, one believes that it is indeed yet capable of bearing even more and richer. Now, this brings me to another point. On one hand, the English teacher or the teacher in English, the Indian teachers of English and the teachers across the world, they start saying, they begin teaching Shakespeare that Shakespeare is universal, right? We say, when I started talking about this lecture, uh, I started talking about Shakespeare. I said that Shakespeare was invented for India. This could be a post-colonial thinking, right? But if somebody in England, in Japan says that, why do you like Shakespeare? And somebody says his characters are Japanese. How do you explain this? Right? So Japan was not a colony of the Britishers. We Indians were a colony, no doubt. So if Shakespeare is being imitated over there, or Shakespeare is being identified with, is there something indigenous, or is there something intrinsic in Shakespeare for which he is valued? The issue is debatable. We can keep on debating this issue. But let me move on to a different paradigm altogether. Once again, a post-colonial paradigm about Shakespeare's universality. We say Shakespeare happens to be a universal author. One of my students and I started exploring this aspect, right? And I said that in India, you generally begin teaching Shakespeare saying he's universal, and you try to identify yourself with Shakespearean characters, whether that is just a figment of your imagination or something is important that we can simply discuss on the basis of evidence in research, right? not on the basis of emotional outbursts, right? Jealousy is there. Where is jealousy not there? Is jealousy not there in Ramayana? Is jealousy not there in Mahabharata? Right? So why do you have to go to Shakespeare in order to understand jealousy? Jealousy of Othello. Why do you have to go to Hamlet to see revenge? Is revenge not there in Mahabharata? Is revenge not there in Bhim when he tries to tear open the body of the Duryodhan? Right? So these are simply emotional outbursts. When we try to see this is how these characters are behaving and this is something unique, there is nothing of that sort, right? My student corrects me, Dukshashan, not Duryodhan, right? They know Mahabharata better than I do. Anyway, uh, thank you, Satyam. Now, the point I was making was in almost every Shakespearean play, kings are there, or kingly characters are there. His idea of kingship, if he is a universal author, they should match somewhere our idea of kingship. This is the hypothesis. Indian idea of kingship and Shakespearean idea of kingship. If kings are there in almost every play of Shakespeare, there must be some idea of kingship in Shakespeare, right? The moment you put this thesis to a person studying English, he puts the question, is there an Indian idea of kingship? That simply shows our barrenness of mind, right? अरे यार हमारे यहाँ तो घर घर का बच्चा कहता है राम राज्य चाहिए. राम राज्य की बात कौन करता है? हर घर में होती है राम राज्य की बात. राम राज्य लेकर के आएंगे. There is a particular political party. Even the opponents of that political party are not able to say that they do not need राम राज्य. मोदी जी के सपोर्ट में एक सरेस वाला है. सरेस वाला was making a presentation on Rajat Sharma's show. So on one hand, Sares, the Sares wala was there, and on other hand, some about 200 Muslims were there, and they were bombarding him with questions. And one of the Muslims said, "ये तो बीजेपी तो राम राज्य लाना चाहती है." सरेस वाला said, "Yes, we Muslims also need राम राज्य. सबकी बात सुनी जाएगी ना उसमें. Muslims की भी तो सुनी जाएगी." Right? So even a Muslim who understands Ram Rajya asks for it. Even the lowliest of lowlies voice will be heard of. Unlike whatever is happening in your state, where some people have been sidelined whose voice and whose grievances are going unheard. Right? हम तो राम राज्य की बात कर रहे हैं. तो राम राज्य की बात कर रहे हैं तो कोई कॉन्सेप्ट राम का है ना हमारे दिमाग में, या कोई कॉन्सेप्ट राम राज्य का है ना. सो देयर इज सम आइडिया ऑफ इंडियन आइडिया ऑफ किंगशिप. व्हाट काइंड ऑफ किंग डू वी वांट? नरेंद्र मोदी के ऊपर आरोप लगे गुजरात में. अटल बिहारी जी वहां गए और उन्होंने कहा राजधर्म का पालन कीजिए. That was the advice, and Narendra Modi said, "This is exactly what I am doing." Rajdharm. From where is this concept of Rajdharm coming if there is no Indian idea of kingship? Right? And that student of mine, he started exploring this and he took up the historical plays for his analysis. And he found that there was no similarity in the Shakespearean idea of kingship and Indian idea of kingship. Rather, his best king was a cheat. He nowhere matches the Indian ideal of a king. That student of mine, He also published 5 papers on 5 tragedies. Even the kings in the tragedies came nowhere to the Indian idea of kingship. They came closer to Indian idea of kingship, right? So meaning thereby, if Indian idea of kingship is not present in Shakespeare, why should I think or why should I propagate the myth that Shakespeare happens to be a universal dramatist? Almost in every university, Shakespeare is offered as a special playwright or as an independent dramatist. I, for example, when I did my MA, there used to be 2 papers, drama excluding Shakespeare and Shakespeare, and both these papers were compulsory papers. So in Indian academia, Shakespeare was given a special treatment. But there was a man in the University of Trivandrum, Kerala. That professor said Shakespeare is another dramatist, and why should Shakespeare be taught as a separate dramatist or an independent paper be there? And for about a decade in Trivandrum University, Shakespeare was being taught like any other dramatist with one drama being represented. And when I visited Trivandrum last, I asked the person, the head of the department over there, has Shakespeare teaching been restored in this country, in your university? And he said, yes. Now we are having an independent full paper on Shakespeare. So we are still trying to come out of this, right? How much time do I have more? I have spoken.
Sir, uh, you can carry on, sir. Not an
Okay,
issue.
okay. Now, one of the issues that I was talking about was English. This Shakespeare came handy as the in order to civilize Indians. So Shakespeare was invented as an author for British civilizing mission that they undertook in the colonies, right? And as I indicated, many of our scholars, they took hmm, all this very readily, and many of them simply started teaching Shakespeare, right? However, there is another, uh, let me show you some books. Are you able to see this book?
Yes, sir, we can see that. It's
Huh?
by
Ramvilas
Ramvilas
Sharma's
Sharma.
Essays on Shakespearean Tragedy.
Yes, sir.
Ramvilas Sharma happens to be a very important critic of Hindi literature. Uh, he has almost 100 books to his credit, and he's a Marxist critic. He was a teacher of English, right? And he has only 2 books related to India, to British literature. One on Shakespeare, and another is on romantic poetry. This is the new edition of this book, right? Naturally, he has tried to study the Shakespearean tragedies from the Marxist perspective. But what I wish to emphasize is that he has written the introduction to this book in Hindi. Right? What is the attitude of a teacher of English in the classroom? Should he be talking about Shakespearean comedies and tragedies in Hindi in the vernaculars? Or should he be talking about these books only in English? As a matter of fact, the publisher was quite annoyed. He could not say initially no to this. But in the second book that he brought out of romantic poets, the reissued edition, he did not bring that, he did not publish that introduction in Hindi. Why this sort of resistance? Because the publisher said that the book was not selling. The book was not selling because of the introduction in Hindi. Now, I show you another book. Can you see this? Macbeth.
Yes, sir, we can see that.
Can you notice the publisher? Progress Publishers, Moscow.
Right.
Right? In this book, everything is there in English. Right? Should our books be produced like this? But there is another edition of Shakespeare published from this very press, Progress Publishers, where the entire introduction is there in Russian. It is only in India that we wish to write our answers in English. As a result, our students are not able to do justice to Shakespeare, neither to Shakespeare, nor do we understand the issues. If we wish to say something original about Shakespeare, our students fail to do that. Should we change our approach in teaching? Till the time we make a distinction between the language and subject matter. I generally say physics can be taught in English, physics can also be taught in Bengali. Right? So, subject matter and language communication, these are two different issues. A large number of students, they understand Shakespeare, they understand Macbeth. Right? Now, Macbeth is another very popular play in India. Right? How do the teachers of English teach this play in the classroom? Lady Macbeth, the fourth witch. Isn't it? Most of the teachers say Lady Macbeth is the fourth witch. One of my former heads, Professor J.K. Mishra, did a lengthy article. And he said Lady Macbeth is not a witch. She is to be compared. She is a devoted wife and needs to be compared with Sita. Right? Two opposite views. A teacher in pre-independent India perhaps could not have dared to say so. And when this teacher made this, this head of the department made this presentation in All India English Teachers Conference at Banaras, the teachers of English pounced on him. I was not present, but this is what my colleagues who were present over there. He made the same presentation in, I think, 2004 or 5. or maybe 6 in one of the refresher courses at Allahabad University. Once again, the same response was there. All the participants, they just bounced upon it. This comparison between Sita and Lady Macbeth is preposterous. Lady Macbeth can't be described as Sita. Just think coolly. Where is Sita's personality in Ramayana? Sita sacrifices herself for the sake of the husband. Whatever the husband is doing, Sita says, yes, I'll do the same. Whatever my husband will do, I'll follow that. She abandons the Raj Mahal, the palace, the palatial comforts, comes to the forest, leads a life of an ascetic. She negates her personality for the sake of her husband Ram. Is Lady Macbeth not negating her personality for Macbeth? Is there any line in the play that indicates that she wants to become the queen and becoming a queen is more important for her than Macbeth becoming the king? The only thing that she has in mind is that Macbeth should somehow become the king. Right? Now, what is the point of jealousy between Macbeth and King Duncan? In one of the films, I think it was a Japanese director.
Sir, Akira Kurosawa?
Perhaps. And who is that Indian Makbul?
Sir,
Makbul
Vishal
is also
Bharadwaj.
Vishal Makbul. Maybe in this Makbul or somewhere, I am forgetting. It is indicated.
Yes, sir. Makbul by Vishal Bharadwaj, Hyder by Vishal Bharadwaj. And Akira Kurosawa was the Japanese film director.
Let me say. Why does Macbeth, what is the motive to kill Duncan? In one of these films, the motive is told to be that Lady Macbeth is being approached by Duncan.
Sir, ये
and being made to, that is in Makbul.
हाँ सर, मकबूल में था.
So adultery, and because of this adultery, Macbeth kills Duncan. That could be an adaptation for an Indian audience, right? But the play does not indicate anything of the sort, right? Got it? So adaptations could be different, but these adaptations could be made when you try to highlight a particular point and when you try to find certain things that are not there in the text. Right? This is not there in the text. The reason over there happens to be very simple as to who is going to be the next king. In the next king, a meeting is to take place. And now this person, Macbeth, happens to be the Thane of two places, but even before he reaches the place, the election has already taken place and Duncan has declared his own son to be the crown prince. Right? Coming back to Lady Macbeth, even the greatest critic of Shakespeare, A.C. Bradley, he says, all said and done, you can't deny this fact that Lady Macbeth was a devoted wife. So, considering a devoted wife to be the fourth, which happens to be a typical Christian attitude, right? We Indians do not treat a devoted wife to be as for which we respect such a person, right? And another point of comparison that Professor Mishra brought in was that Sita died of neglect. Ram did not pay attention to her, right? She felt neglected toward the end of her life, and so was Lady Macbeth neglected by uh, Macbeth. So points of comparison between these two, right? So in the post-colonial India, what are you trying to do? You are trying to explore new vistas, and you are coming out of the shadow of the British legacy, right? There is another book by the initial book, Introduction to Shakespeare by K.G. Pandit, right? I gave you the example of that Japanese. This is from this very book. When a Japanese says his characters are Japanese, right? Uh, Publishing houses. So this happens to be a very important publishing house, Karnataka Publishing House, Bombay. And whatever books were published were issued by them. They were very important books. As a matter of fact, I learned most of my Shakespeare from the books published by this publication house. The publication house, unfortunately, is no more there these days. So you have to look for some. In Calcutta, I am told there is a College Street where old books are sold. Devadattaji, College Street is there.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely, sir.
So you have to go and look for.
It's a treasure trove of these books.
Yes. Translations. This is the latest translation published by Sahitya Academy of Othello. The translation in Hindi were done by Bachchanji, and there was another author who was based here in Lucknow, right? There was a great deal of a debate. I've already talked about some of the translations of Merchant of Venice, right? There is another important book that has been published. Shakespeare the Icon, right? You can see the size of the book, right? In this book, a history of almost 200 years is that begins with Muhammad Iqbal's contribution, Shri Aurobindo, Mahatma Gandhi, Rabindranath Tagore, C.N. Menon, Tarak Nath Sen, Mulkraj Anand, Gauri Prasad Ghosh, Ramvilas Sharma, Swami Ranganathanand, Vikram Chopra, then L.M. Singhvi, then What Shakespeare Means to Me, M. Mujib, R.K. Narayan, Shamlal, M.M. Balla, Frank Thakur Das, Uma Shankar Joshi, Mulkraj Anand, Utpal Das, Ibrahim Alkazi. Various photographs too are there. Then Shakespeare's evolution and assimilation in cultural milieu of India, some details, right? N.G. Chaudhary is there, Smita Basu is there, Alek Padmasi is there, Taurit Mitra is there, Vikram Iyengar is there, M.G. Jyotish is there, Maya Krishna Rao is there. So how this Shakespeare, Birju Maharaj and Shashwati Sen are there, Anuradha Kapoor is there, Dev Roop and Ritupama Roy is there, Alek Padmasi is there on Othello, Kabir Bedi as Othello and Nikki Jacker as Desdemona. Othello as a Natwa presentation by Mohan Maharishi, then Raj Bisaria, NSD presentation of Othello, Arjun Rana, Magic Hour of Hail Kali, Othello in black and white, a play in Othello, a film, Royston Abel is there. Ranjit Kapoor is there, where he is discussing Hamlet as the crown prince. Then abridged version of complete works of Shakespeare is there. Reduced scenes, stills. Vivek Gail, Sukesh. Complete works of Shakespeare, abridged version, Black Cow Company, direction by Misha Singh. Akshara Theatre, right? Celebrating Shakespeare's birthday, 23rd of April 2010. A feast of Shakespeare, readings, discussions, and presentations, right? Then craft and art, staging King Lear in Indian context is rare experience. So a lot of effort on making these presentations. Then Premanand Kumar is there, S. Nagarajan is there, two notes on King Lear, Cordelia returns reconsidered, treatment of evil and measure for measure, K. Appa Panigar, Jagdish Purkayast is there, S. N. Roy is there, B.G. Tannan is there, Ruth Vanita is there, S. Vishwanathan is there, Keshav Malik is there, Basavraj Naikar is there, The Jew in Marlowe and Shakespeare, a comparative study. Then you have got another important critic, A. Ansari, The Perplexity of Macbeth. Vishwanath Chatterjee is there, Shakespeare's Cosmic Drama, a reading of King Lear. Sukanta Chaudhary is there, King Villain Sacrifice, Macbeth as tragic hero. Mulk Raj Chilana is there, Shakespeare as a pillar of practical philosophy. Amresh Datta is there, Shakespeare in perspective and Shakespearean comedies. Stray approaches to Shakespeare, R.A. Dave, K.R.S. Iyengar, R.K. Kaul is there, Sikandar Lal is there, R.A. Malagi is there, K.D. Setna is there, S.C. Sen Gupta is there, Rambilas Sharma is there, and Sarup Singh. Right? So, two important contributions, one by S.C. Sen Gupta, right? Shakespearean comedy, no discussion can be complete without his mention. And then another book by K.R.S. Iyengar, Shakespeare, complete book on Shakespeare, where he is trying to study Shakespeare from Indian perspective. Then S. Anand, East-West Encounter, Nuances of Eroticism in Shakespeare's Antony and Cleopatra. Then Vishwanath Chatterjee, Bankim Chand Chatterjee on Kalidas and Shakespeare. Then R.W. Desai. Yes, another mention needs to be mentioned of R.W. Desai, because R.W. Desai single-handedly brought out a journal on one single play, Hamlet, for 20 years, more than 20 years as a matter of fact. And there was a friend of mine who completed his PhD on off-stage action in Hamlet. And he took almost 30 years to complete his PhD. He was my classmate in my MPhil days. And just before his retirement, 4 days to his retirement, he was awarded his PhD. And he went to attend that conference organized by Professor R.W. Desai, and he then tried to say, explore as to on which particular day that particular play within the play was staged. So historicity of a particular event that is considered to be fictional over there, right? And Professor Desai also appreciated his effort. And then this Ramji Yadav, he went to Poland to make his presentation. We expect to see his publication in the next few years. Then K.N. Iyer is there, S.N. Jaffrey is there, V.Y. Kantak is there, Shweta Khanna is there, C.D. Narasimhaiah is there, C.D. Rajendran is there, right? C.D. Narasimhaiah is important because several of Shakespeare's plays, they have been studied from Indian perspective over there. So that is another way you can study Shakespearean response by Indians, by making a study of various PhD theses. For example, at Allahabad University, only 9 PhD theses on Shakespeare have been completed, and at least 2 of them have been completed from the perspective of Indian aesthetics. One is the study of Shakespearean's tragedies from Russ aesthetic point of view, and there is another PhD thesis where Shakespearean's heroines have been studied from the perspective of Bharat's Natya Shastra, right? Then you have got C.D. Rajendran, Ragini Ramchandran is there, Malti Ramaratnam is there, S. Ramaswamy is there, where Shakespearean Indian philosophy, Shakespearean Indian Upanishads are being looked into, right? The issue of rebirth has also figured in Shakespeare, and my father has done an article on that issue also. How Shakespeare looks at death and rebirth in Shakespeare, right? Then personal prejudices, this regional prejudices, racial prejudices, Othello and the Merchant of Venice, they are very good examples, right? Then Poonam Trivedi, Hamlet on the Indian stage, Rajiv Verma, Shakespeare in Hindi cinema, Nathali Call, right? We must be gentle now. The Winter's Tale, Vikram Chopra, S.C. Sen Gupta, right? All these have been contributed here. And about Shakespeare's last plays, not much work has been done. So I would like to mention the contribution of one of my senior colleagues in Allahabad University, Professor L.R. Sharma, who has worked on Shakespeare's last plays, problem plays, and come out with different solutions. His wife, Vandana Sharma, has tried to study Shakespeare from Buddhist perspective, right? I think that is enough. I was spoken for almost 1.5 hours.
Sir, we wish we could listen to you longer, but I will be coming to the Thanksgiving later. But I think with your permission, I should open the session for interaction.
Oh, sure. These are two another important books that I wish to talk about, but at some other time we'll talk about it. Yes, please.
So, dear participants, feel free to go ahead with your comments and observations. And yes, my colleague, my dear friend, has again reminded all of you, please click on that link. It's important from our perspective as an organizer, but I request our participants to please go ahead if you have any questions, comments, observations to make. Okay. Okay, I think people are taking time or they're letting it sink in. But can I go ahead with a question, sir? Okay,
why not? Why not?
We already have one of our participants raising hand. So please, Kushnuma ji,
Good evening,
please.
sir. I am Kushnuma Yasmin, a final year undergraduate student of English Honor from Bharat Gangli College. Thank you for this insightful session. I had a question regarding the relevance of Shakespeare in Indian classroom. Sir, in the passage you read critiques how prize books were selected without clear educational logic. Do you think the inclusion of Shakespeare in Indian curricula was also influenced more by colonial priorities than by cultural relevance? And how should we as a student approach this legacy?
This is a very typical question, and this perturbs all the teachers of English. This perturbs the teachers of English more so because the objective of studying English literature is not clear to us. As a matter of fact, even Macaulay was not very straight in this answer because he had an agenda. After all, he was a colonial ruler. So what was the agenda? On one hand, he was saying that we can turn our, we can't make every Indian a scholar, right? A scholar of English. But we can certainly produce a class of persons who in turn will become scholars of English, and they in turn will change the science and technology. he does not mention the ethos, although he begins his minutes with ethos. He says this kind of history, this kind of ethos, he is not going to support, right? And particularly, he comes very hard on the Hindu mythology and Hindu concept of history and Hindu concept of science, right? So he says that British things have got to be there. Although he says that he will be concentrating on English language. Now, how to teach language in this country? What is needed? Is the language needed or English literature is needed? So, Kushnummaji, if you are very clear about these issues, then perhaps you get the answer. So, if you say that English language is needed, then Shakespeare is not at all needed. Right?
Right, sir. Thank you.
But if you say that Shakespeare is needed for the subject matter, then of course Shakespeare is needed. But in order to read Shakespeare, once again, either you have to read Shakespeare in translation or you have to read him in his original language. In order to know Shakespearean language, you have to once again work hard, because any teacher will simply teach you contemporary English or modern English. He will not teach you Elizabethan English. Right? So that becomes a highly specialized subject. Unfortunately, in India, there is a large scale of confusion regarding that, and our teachers of English are responsible for that, because they do not know as to what are they required to do. And so is the case with the policymakers. I'm saying this because here at Allahabad University, we have got two streams. One stream happens to be the stream of English literature, another happens to be the stream of English language. Meaning thereby the option is there. But while we are running 8 sections in English literature, in English language, we are able to run only 4 sections. Right? So people themselves are confused. Our students themselves are confused. They do not know what is their requirement, and they are simply guided by either by their seniors or by their parents or by the market needs, and they wish, or by the nature of the subject. Right? In English literature, if you simply ask some of your seniors, they will simply say, well, you cram up these answers and you reproduce them in the examination. The same thing can't be done in the case of a language classroom, because in the language classroom you are required to perform, which is sometimes difficult for many of our students. And when you teach literature, you also change the sensibility. So Macaulay wanted to change the sensibility. Right? You see, in India, what do we say? अरे यार उसका कर्म है वो देखेगा. Even the Muslims, they will say, अरे यार वो कर्म है उसका वो देखेगा. कर्म है, खुदा देखेगा. Right? So emphasis on karma, the philosophy of karma, that is there in the Bhagavad Gita, that is there in our Indian ethos. Ram की पूजा क्यों करते हैं? Why do we like Ram? Because he was devoted to karma. Krishna, because he was asking for duty. Do your duty. Right? All for love पढ़ा के क्या कह रहे हैं? Do not do your duty. Sacrifice yourself for love. So are you not changing the sensibility here? Right? So we have to be very clear about the objectives. Unfortunately, in most of the universities, the objective of a particular course are not mentioned. Or even if they are mentioned, the students and teachers do not pay any attention to them, and they think that this is a useless exercise. Provided the students start scrutinizing those objectives very closely, they'll come to know why they are studying a particular course. I think, Kushnummaji, I have tried to answer your question. Are you satisfied?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank you so much, sir. Any other question from our participants? Okay, Proshenjit, he is one of our students. Sir, would you like me to read out his reply?
Yes, please do.
Sir, as you have said that Lady Macbeth never saw herself as a queen, or there is no line in the text where she is telling that she wants to be a queen. But I think that it becomes quite easy to say that if Macbeth becomes king, then she automatically becomes a queen. So please share your thoughts on this.
No. These are two different issues. I wish to become a queen, and therefore I want my husband to be the king.
Absolutely.
Right? And my husband will become the king, and therefore I'll become the queen. So who is the leader? In the second case, the leader happens to be the husband. I want my husband to be the king, but I wish to become the queen, and therefore my husband should follow my advice or do something to fulfill my wish. Right? So these are two different stands. And in the entire play, you do not find any independent stand being taken by Lady Macbeth. Whatever stand she takes, it is for the sake of the
Her
husband.
husband.
Right? Even the prayer, you see, in even the prayer that she makes to the devil, come, come, O powers, right? Fill my body with gall. Let no milk of humanity flow into my veins. So before she makes a decision, she has to pray. She has to curb her natural feelings, right? So she is demeaning herself, as a matter of fact. And when she is demeaning, there comes a stage when she is not able to withstand this pressure on her personality, and she breaks down. Gee, I think I have answered the question.
Yes, sir. Proshenjit is thanking you. We have Hanifa ji, Dr. Hanifa
Yes.
Rahman. She has posted a query. In
Ah,
what ways can teaching Shakespeare in Indian academia be reimagined to serve as a site of critical engagement and resistance rather than passive acceptance of a colonial intellectual inheritance? This is from Hanifa ji.
Hanifa ji, the new education policy 2020 very clearly specifies that one of the purposes of education happens to be critical thinking. We do not have to accept things as they are. There is a difference between fact and truth. As a matter of fact, there is a poem of William Morris where he says that truths are complicated, facts are not. Right? So a teacher of English or a teacher of any subject is supposed to reach that truth. And naturally, this is going to be a difficult exercise. Right? I've given you examples. Most of our critics, Shakespearean critics, they have simply done cut and paste work. In modern terminology, most of our English criticism is plagiarism. Plagiarism in MLA handbook has been defined as the copying of the ideas without any acknowledgement. It's not only simply borrowing somebody else's language, right, without any acknowledgement, even borrowing others' ideas. So where is the Indian originality in our criticism? And can't you see this in the course lists? At Allahabad University, we earlier used to bring out lecture lists. So lecture topics used to be there, syllabus used to be there, what text will be taught. And then there used to be a long list of books. In case of romantic lecture, more than 200 books have been mentioned over there. Right? hardly 4 or 5 books are from India over there. Whatever books are there from India, they too have been published by Indians abroad. For example, Balchand Rajan has been mentioned, or Rajnath has been mentioned, or Bhavtosh Mukherjee has been referred to. PhD thesis done outside. What is happening to most of these PhD theses that are available on Shodh Ganga? Calcutta University has awarded a degree, but the Calcutta University is not ready to recommend that book in the syllabus. The same university, the same professor. Why is this happening? And this is pan-India phenomena. Mainly because we have not tried to judge. We do not have that confidence that whatever we are doing, that is our doing, that is our thinking. We do not have any confidence. English happens to be the second language for us. Even English literature happens to be the second language literature for us. We somehow feel that our reading perhaps is not perfect, or our ideas are not perfect. And by the way, how many Indians are there who are being cited abroad? These days, these rankings are available, citations are available. Just see how many of the Indians are being cited over there. We may say we are the great scholars, right? So self-praise is something very good, but what is the reality? Gee, I think I have answered that question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I think we have been going on for a long time, and I'm sure sir has many other things to do. So I would request the participants to limit their questions with your permission, sir.
No, if there are some more questions, I'm ready to take. No issues.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. So participants, you can continue with your questions. Meanwhile, I would like to ask you something, sir, with your permission.
Please.
Sir, you have enlightened us not just about teaching Shakespeare in India, but probably about teaching in general. I would come to this later when I give you the formal Thanksgiving part. Thanksgiving. I was getting reminded of one interesting experience that we had in Rabindra Bharati University. I can see Ishanidhi is also here. She happens to be my senior from Rabindra Bharati. We had late Professor Amitava Roy, who
Yes.
used to do a very interesting exercise with us, particularly for making us feel more connected with the Shakespearean language, and also noting how the language differs with ours, how the culture differs with ours. He would always request us to translate by picking passages, important passages. I still remember his lectures on King Lear, and particularly the parts from the first scene where the debate between the father and the daughter is going on. And he would ask us, isn't this something that you are familiar with your Indian households, families? You have heard stories like this. And we would translate passages and understand that there are things in Shakespeare which are different from ours, and there are things which echo with our sensibility. So can we, sir, continue with this? I never heard Professor Roy giving this a particular name, but maybe we can call this live translation or collaborative translation in the classroom. Can we adopt this as a strategy for teaching Shakespeare?
Once again, the purpose of teaching should be clear to us. What do we wish to do with Shakespeare? Do we wish to do translation studies? Do we need to initiate our students into understanding Shakespeare? Do we need Shakespeare in order to teach culture? Do we need Shakespeare to teach language? So with the different perspectives in our mind, different strategies can be adopted. But this issue of King Lear, you brought in something very important. I was at Amritsar. We were doing a course. And during the day hours, we had a very interesting discussion about King Lear. And while we retired in the evening to our beds, there was a fellow participant from Mizoram. So these Mizo fellows or people from the northeast, they are not very open. But somehow he started believing me and he started asking me questions. Sharma ji, what is this natural sun, real sun, Edmund and Edgar? Right? What is this bastard? I do not understand this concept. I said, what about the concept of marriage in your area? And whose responsibility is the child? He said in his culture, the responsibility of raising the child was not there with the father. The responsibility of raising the child was there with the mama, uncle, maternal uncle. So the girl will marry anyone or will have a child with marriage or without marriage, that is immaterial. The child has got to be looked after. How are you going to explain this? Right? So the cultural differences will be there. And as a matter of fact, we in India presently think that one man should marry only one woman. This is basically not an Indian idea. This is the Christian idea that was imposed on us by the Portuguese first, and then it was adopted by these people. Otherwise, we Indians, Hindus, we used to have multiple wives. In Bengal, it was very common. So, how this literature has helped in changing our ideas, changing our morality, restricting, putting various kind of restrictions. As a matter of fact, there is a letter of Macaulay which he writes to his father. Says that this education in English in Bengal is doing is having a, what is that word that he uses? A tremendous effect, not tremendous, he uses a typical word there, right? And in 30 years hence, there will not be a single idolater left in the respectable families of Bengal. There will not be a single idolater left. Idolater there means a Hindu left in the respectable families of Bengal. This is one of the letters of Macaulay to his father. So what was he trying to do with Shakespeare? Or with all these books that he mentioned over there? I deliberately mentioned that part. Which books he wanted us to read, which books he wanted us to be gifted, so that our ethos could change. Shakespeare, Macaulay was not interested in doing drama in the classroom. Right? Didn't you see that note? Can you imagine a black boy performing as Portia? He was not for this drama activity. He was for the changing of ethos, morality. So different people may have different takes on Shakespeare. Right? That's why I said that this mention of objectives needs to be there. If the objective in the classroom is not to teach translation or to find equivalence, why should we indulge in that type of exercise? Amitav Roy and several other teachers, they are also fond of enacting various scenes in the classroom. Come boys, let us enact this. Let us enact this in English, let us enact this in So that could be a very good strategy to get attention of the students and get involved in that. But what is the purpose? What is the objective of teaching that particular? And you see, the teaching method. I said that when I read out that particular piece from Macaulay, Macaulay is referring to the teaching methodology, he is referring to the teaching materials, he is also referring indirectly to the objectives, teaching objectives. These three things are clear in Macaulay's mind. He is not talking about the evaluation strategies, of course, right? But he is unsatisfied with the result that is there because of this type of teaching that is taking place, and therefore he wants it to change.
Thank you so much, sir, for the response. Very comprehensive, and as I said, you are also teaching us how to teach. That's a very important thing.
Not at all, not at all.
Yes, sir. Sorry, yeah, I got you.
No, I dare not.
No, sir.
All of you are senior teachers. No.
No, sir. Any more questions from our dear participants?
Hello. Can
Yes.
you hear me, sir?
Yes, please.
Sir, good evening, and thank you so much for your insightful session with us. And sir, my question, I'm Rohit Preetham from Delhi University. I got into PhD just, a couple of 2 months before. And my question basically may be out of line with, what this, session is about. My question basically, the topic which I have chosen for my research is the panpsychist imagination of William Shakespeare. It's panpsychist imagination of William Shakespeare. So, after going through this particular lecture, the fact has dawned upon me that Shakespeare is something that has to be deconstructed, or, that we have to adopt a new perspective towards William Shakespeare rather than, justifying everything that is there in his plays. So, can you please advise me, or can you tell me how to, or guide me how to proceed with this idea of panpsychism and William Shakespeare, sir? Could you please shed a bit light of your understanding? Could you please enlighten me regarding this? Thank you so much.
I have to understand your topic first. I have not understood your topic first, Rohitji.
Sir, I'm looking at the workshop William Shakespeare from the perspective of the philosophical stand of panpsychism that believes that everything has life or soul or a spirit. So this is what I'm trying to, find in the works of William Shakespeare.
Why are you using this term panpsychism?
It's the adjective, panpsychist imagination of William Shakespeare.
This is an adjective, that's fine, but why are you so much obsessed with this particular word? Has some Western philosopher used this word, or has some Western scholar used this term?
Yes, sir, it has been there in the philosophers like Spinoza and others. They have been quite much, they have written and popularized things, this philosophy, sir, yes.
Is there something similar in your Indian philosophy?
Yes, sir, it is like the philosophy of this, it is there like, it's हम में तुम में खरे कम में सब में है भगवान is pantheistic philosophy equivalent Christian equivalent of pantheistic philosophy or pantheism, sir.
ये बेटा जो जिसको आप पैंथीज्म कह रहे हैं ना, ये हमारे यहाँ वेदांत कहते हैं इसको.
जी ऐसा ही कुछ सर. हाँ जी.
अब अंतर क्या है? बेसिकली अंतर ये है कि हम लोग तो कहते हैं एवरीथिंग इज द मैनिफेस्टेशन ऑफ गॉड.
हाँ.
In Christianity, everything is not the manifestation of God. God is different from his creations. God said, let there be light, and there was light, and God said it was good. God did not transform himself into the sun. God took some clay and created Adam out of dust. Right? So Adam is not the manifestation of God himself. So pantheism is very close to Indian nature. And on one hand, you say that Shakespeare was uneducated. On another hand, you are saying that Shakespeare came under the influence of Spinoza, right? So if Shakespeare was uneducated, how could he read Spinoza?
So Spinoza, came after, William Shakespeare.
अरे
So,
भैया तो ये बताओ ना, why are you looking for Spinoza in that case? Why
no,
don't you look for Vedanta? Or why don't you see the reflection of Vedanta over there?
yes, sir. Vedantic equivalences will be explored. Yes.
तो use Indian terminology, उसमें Spinoza को लाने की क्या जरूरत है?
G.
That is my difference with Delhi people.
Ha.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
And 3 of my students are there in your department.
Okay, okay. So, from West Bengal, sir?
From Allahabad.
Okay,
Dr.
Allah.
Yogesh Dubey is there, Vinod Kumar Singh is there, and recently Anshu has joined.
Yeah, sir, they are my supervisor and advisor and
Yeah.
supervisor. Professor Vinod sir is my supervisor.
So Vinod did his PhD with me.
Okay. Gee.
Right?
Yes,
So
sir.
I was talking about Shakespeare's Kings. That was basically Vinod's work.
Yeah, about kingship and all. Yeah, his research topic is there. The notion of kingship. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thanks to you also, Rohit. You
Thank you so much.
raised a question, and sir, I keep on telling you are also trying to teach us how to teach, how to come up with ideas, which is very important. And although it was not in our objective to give it a feel of a refresher course, but sir, having attended a few of those, I would say we came very close to that, and probably it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Thank you very much. Actually,
So,
this was a mixed
absolutely,
audience, so I did not know how to address them. I thought some UD students will be there, some PG students will be there, so something of some interest to everybody. So this is
Sure,
what I
sir.
was trying to.
That purpose was served, I must say.
Thank
So,
you.
so now I come to the formal Thanksgiving part. Okay, Shanghamitra has posted her comment. Excellent post-colonial reading of Shakespeare given by sir. Thank you, Shanghamitra.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So, sir, during my lifetime, I keep on having a regret that I could not attend the lectures of a number of people, number of our seniors. And after attending today's session, my regret will always be there that I could not attend Professor Sharma's classes when I was a student. But yes, I tasted a few moments of it. And the way the lecture was organized, it was not just informative, but I'm trying to quote my supervisor, who always tells me that there are two types of things, mostly two types of things that you find in a good lecture. One is information, the other, he being a lover of puns, information, some formations that come from within. And I think that was the most special part of this lecture. The way you familiarized us with the very beginning of Shakespeare studies with an agenda from Macaulay's end, and you carried on till we reached that wonderful book you showed us, sir. I must say I will be grabbing one copy at the earliest, because I was looking for one such book where we would have all the great people like K.D. Setna and all the others you mentioned. And the resistance that we academics faced and have been facing while teaching Shakespeare, and also the pitfalls of drafting a syllabus, teaching Shakespeare, they have been highlighted in a very lucid manner. And I will be very happy to inform that this lecture will be archived and can be viewed and reviewed by our future listeners, which I think will be of great help to our future listeners as well. Sanghamitra has pasted another comment. Fodder for excellent post-colonial interpretation of Shakespeare gained from this lecture. Thanks to IQAC Manikya for the lecture. And yes, I will be also thanking my dear colleague Masood for helping me with this. We are trying to do certain things within our limitations. And thank you again, sir, for joining us. This was a very special evening, and we will look forward to hosting you maybe in future in person amongst us. And thank you again, sir. Have a great evening. Have a great journey ahead as one of our respected seniors, and I must say as one of the poets who keeps mingling academia and creativity, which these days is becoming rare. So thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I request our dear participants to please